Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you are well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more relationship stories. And if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too. Let's crack on with today's first story, which comes from DearFee7205, who says, "My mum wants to have a talk after kicking me out 2 years ago in favor of her boyfriend who bullied me in high school. My dad passed away when I was only 1. It's been me and my mum ever since. As you can guess, my mum and I were very close. When I was a sophomore in high school, my mum got a part-time job as a gym teacher at my school. I supported her when she asked if I'd be comfortable with it. It was extremely uncomfortable when guys would make comments on my mum's appearance. It also gave ammo to Brad, who bullied me in high school. He would make inappropriate comments about her towards me. Brad was a year ahead of me, so I thought I was finally rid of him after he graduated. I was wrong. When I became a senior, my mum started going out very often. Initially, I was happy for her because I wanted her to find someone nice. However, it came to a point where barely got any time together. To be frank, I thought she was avoiding me. This was because whenever I tried to make plans with her, she'd already made plans before. I sort of kept it to myself because I didn't want to come off as needy. I didn't complain when she missed my birthday because she was out all night. When she tried to apologize the next day, I told her it was okay. After 6 months of this behavior, I decided to take action. I asked my mum if we could have dinner together, just the two of us. She said she was too busy. I got fed up and told her to stop ignoring me. She said that she wasn't ignoring me, but that she had a life to live. That really hurt me a lot. Out of anger, I started to ignore her for a few days. After those days passed, she finally apologized to me. However, she said she needed to talk to me about something important. She wanted to introduce me to her boyfriend at dinner. She didn't sound excited about it. It sounds like she almost dreaded it. When the door rang, my mum opened it up and introduced the guy to me. I was in extreme shock. It was Brad. I almost screamed at my mum, asking her what is he doing here. Brad came forward to acknowledge that the situation was uncomfortable, but he's sorry for how he treated me in school and that he really cares about my mum. My mum asked us to sit and let her explain how this all happened. I remember screaming, "I don't give a fuck about your explanation. You tossed me aside for this piece of shit. You're a pathetic excuse for a mother." My mum then defended him when said, "Don't you dare call him that." She then said she tried to accommodate everyone in this tough situation by keeping the relationship away from me. She then said, like it or not, Brad is here to stay. If you don't like it, you're more than welcome to leave. I packed my bags right there and then. I called my grandma and told her about the whole situation. She drove to my house and confronted my mum. After a shouting match between them, I left with my grandma. My mum tried calling me several weeks, but I blocked her. She tried to visit me, but I called the cops on her. After that, she sort of gave up. It's been 2 years since I've heard from my mum. Then I get a call from her yesterday. She said it's urgent and we need to meet up. I don't know if I should go. Bitter Hero says, "Very creepy your mum is dating someone your age who was presumably her student. Seems like an inappropriate relationship before you even consider he bullied you. If you feel comfortable going to see her, then maybe you and grandma can both go together. Otherwise, just tell her she can talk to you on the phone or message, etc." Stella says, "Do you want to talk to her? You don't have to. If it's truly urgent, then she should tell you what it's about before you commit to seeing her in person. Is it that she's been diagnosed with an incurable disease and wants to make amends, or does she need money, a place to live, or something else?" I'll text back, "What is this about?" Keep it all in writing. Do not commit to a phone conversation or meet up unless you want to. Typical agency says there's 3 options. 1, she's pregnant. 2, she's getting married. 3, they broke up. Is she still working at the school? If so, she needs to be reported and fired. The Stoner Boner says, "First, I'm sorry, that's legitimately awful. Second, I would only agree to see her if you have the emotional capacity to be extremely let down. If I was you, I might do it out of curiosity, but it wouldn't be because I expected to foster or maintain a relationship with her again. I think your mother's behavior speaks for itself, and you really can't expect her to do anything other than what she's already done, and that is to hurt you. Her actions speak volumes to her character, or lack thereof. I have no contact with my mum. I'm a 30 female. I kept trying over the years, but it's just better without her in my life. She also knowingly hired my bully to babysit me when they were 16 and I was 8. Cherish your grandma, remain strong, prepare for the worst, hope for nothing from her. And one more from Wario says, dude, your mum is dating your high school bully. Throw the whole mum away. No parent in their right mind would accommodate someone that treated their child harshly. I don't think she cares about you, dude. You may see different, but how you explain this makes your mum seem heartless and values having a relationship with this guy over her own son. I'd leave. OP then updates their post, which says, well, curiosity got the best of me. There was also a burning desire to unload on her. I finally text back my mum asking where should we meet. She said we could meet for lunch at the restaurant at 12 PM. I didn't have any class today, so I was good to go. When I arrived at the restaurant, I heard some woman scream my name. It was my mum, who I haven't seen for 2 years. She asked how I was and said she would hug me, but said she knew I would reject it. Her voice was shaking when she asked me to follow her to the table. Unsurprisingly, Brad was sitting there. He didn't even look me in the eye as we sat down. He just nodded his head as if to simply acknowledge my arrival. As my mum sat down, she started shooting out multiple questions. What have you been up to? Are you in school? How's it going? I got annoyed and told her, stop wasting my time with these questions. What do you want from me? She responded, well, before we tell you, can we explain how all of this happened? I said sure. For those of you asking me to get her ass in trouble with the school board, I hate to break it to you, but they never interacted with each other when Brad was in school. Brad only knew about her because his friends would take pictures of her before gym class started and share them with everyone. It was Brad who approached her at a bar. She didn't recognize him, so he told her he went to the high school she works at and graduated recently. My mum was lonely and jokingly told him she wouldn't tell anyone that he wasn't 21 as long as he hung out with her. They exchanged numbers and made a promise to hang out with each other. She said she knew I wouldn't be comfortable with her seeing a peer of mine. So she kept it a secret and convinced herself it was going to be a short and casual relationship. Eventually, the relationship got serious. When she was hanging out at his house, she asked him about introducing him to me. He told her it wasn't a good idea. She responded by saying, I'll get over the age gap relationship. He was forced to come clean about the relationship I had with him in high school. That's when my mum started tearing up and her voice was shaking. She said she was in shock about what she had done. She couldn't sleep at night because of the guilt. She couldn't even look at me without feeling immense guilt. She had him blocked on her phone. After a week, he sent him a message on Facebook to at least meet him once, and she obliged. He showed up with roses and begged for forgiveness. He even said he'll apologize to me in person and that he's a changed person. She took him back. The next day, she invited him to dinner. My mum burst into tears and begged me to forgive her for hurting me. She then said these 2 years have been painful for her. Finally, Brad spoke and admitted, she misses you like crazy, dude. She still needs you in her life. My mum said, I'm sorry for being an awful mother. We want to make it up to you. We're moving to California and we want you to come with us. We will foot the bill for your education and everything else. You won't have to work at all. You have a permanent place in our home. I don't know what the hell came to me, but I started laughing like crazy, like a madman. It was the most ridiculous proposition. Now this is what makes me the monster. This is what I really came there for. After I calmed down, this is what I said to her. Mum, you're just the most delusional, see you next Tuesday if you think I'll ever forgive you. You are dead to me for good. The only acknowledgement you'll get from me is pissing on your grave when you pass away. Then she was hysterically crying. I got up from the table and left the restaurant. Only a minute after walking to the parking lot, I hear my mum screaming at Brad to stop following me. I really wanted this confrontation. The moment he grabs my shirt, I turn around and sucker punch him in the face. He drops on the road with his mouth bleeding. My mum comes to physically restraining from hurting me until he calms down. I told them, this is what I think about your proposal. It's been 4 hours now after the incident. I know deep down I should be ashamed of myself, but I feel amazing inside. I don't know if adrenaline can last that long. I feel like I took my power back. Someone asked OP and they said, what does a guy do that's only a year older than you to make that kind of money to pay your college? If it's your mum's, wouldn't she already have saved or set that up? It's just weird. OP says, I don't know what job Brad has. My mum, on the other hand, has been saving up money ever since my father passed. I remember her telling me if I got good grades, she'd take out a loan for me to pay for my school and pay it back herself. And now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Let's move on to another story. And our next story comes from Mom0000678, who says, am I the arsehole for forcing my daughter to interact with her aunt? My daughter, 16 female, has been refusing to interact with her aunt, my sister. Aunt, who I call Helen, comes over every Monday and Thursday to bring dinner and catch up with her family. My husband and I enjoy her company, and it's nice to have meals already made for 2 out of 7 days. My daughter, who I call Amy, has been avoiding her aunt like she's the plague. On Mondays and Thursdays, Amy goes to either of her friends or boyfriend's house. She leaves at around 10 AM and won't come home until 10:30. We know that Amy isn't doing anything bad because she'll always tell us the night where she's going, and will come home before her curfew. I also have a tracker which she knows about on her phone, so I know where she is. Amy has been doing this since the beginning of July. Recently, Helen has noticed that Amy is never home when she's over. Helen loves Amy and really wants to spend time with her, but Amy refuses. On Thursday, after she came home and Helen left, I asked Amy why she keeps avoiding her aunt. But then Amy blew up at me. Amy started yelling and crying about how horrible Aunt Helen is to her and how she always makes Amy feel like crap. Amy also said that Helen is very mentally abusive towards her and is a gaslighter. I got very angry and told Amy that she's overreacting, that Helen does/says things out of love and that she can't help it. Amy continued to yell and cry about how horrible her aunt is. I told Amy that she was acting like a spoiled brat, and I proceeded to take her phone and all of her electronics away from her. Today, I talked to Amy and said that she now has to stay home on Mondays and Thursdays and spend an hour with Aunt Helen. If Amy doesn't, then she'll be grounded for 2 weeks, and she won't have her electronics for that time either. Amy started to cry, probably trying to guilt trip me, and she begged to at least only do this on Mondays. I said no, and I reminded her of her punishment if she refuses to comply. Amy called me an arsehole and said things that really hurt my feelings. I told Helen about this and she thanked me for having my daughter stay home. After all, she really does love Amy. My husband said that I went overboard with taking her things away, but believes that Amy is being a brat. So Reddit, am I the arsehole for forcing my daughter to interact with her aunt? I think I'm in the right, but I want to see what you all think. Edit. Amy has told me some bad things Helen has said and done to her in the past. I understand those things and I've talked to Helen about those things. Helen has apologized and wants to make things up with Amy, but Amy has refused. So I don't have to respond to every question. When Amy was younger, she'd spend a lot of time over at Helen's house. Helen is the type of person who says what's on her mind and she never holds back. Helen would tell Amy if she's eating too much or too little, that she looked bad, didn't look pretty, as well as other things. Amy claims that Helen would force her to eat a lot, even if Amy was uncomfortable. There are a lot of things that Amy refuses to tell me, so all I know is that Helen has made a few comments here and there. I must also add that these comments were made years ago. Next edit. I really love Amy and I love Helen too. Helen admits to her wrongdoings, but Amy is the one who doesn't want to sit down and accept the apology. I had to pause at 1 second when it said, Amy also said that Helen is very mentally abusive towards her and is a gaslighter. And then OP says, I got angry and told Amy that she's overreacting, and I was just like, my palm was on my forehead thinking, oh, for fuck's sake, man. And what Amy said in the first edit when she used to stay with Helen, that she's eating too much, too little, which is absolutely awful and could cause all sorts of potential issues. And then this says that she looks bad, doesn't look pretty, as well as other things. And, then you admit that Amy hasn't even told you everything just yet because she doesn't want to. And that's not enough for you. Your daughter doesn't feel comfortable about being around this person, doesn't even want to stay in the house when she's around, and instead of respecting that decision and realizing that Amy has been through some absolute shit with this person, you just totally downplay what she's feeling and says that she has to spend time with her. That's awful. But a deleted user says, first, you don't get to minimize your daughter's feelings. Second, you do not get to minimize your daughter's feelings. This is how you ensure your daughter will come to hate you, start to rebel, and ultimately cut you out of her life when she moves out. If you can't get out of your own way to take your daughter's feelings seriously, then you're failing hard at being a proper parent. Edit. Thank you everyone for all the awards. I'm really happy to see others echo my sentiment. For everyone out there who's had their feelings minimized, my heart goes out to you. I spent my youth minimizing my own feelings out of fear that by the time I found my voice, I wasn't really sure who I was anymore. It took many years to learn what my real voice is. Don't let anyone take yours away from you. Days says you're the arsehole. Seriously, when teens avoid adults like that, literally do not want to be in the house with a person, it's likely that what she's saying is absolutely true. You're putting your sister above your daughter here, and it's definitely going to cost you in the future. Edit, as I reread, I'm seeing so many red flags. You have a tracker on Amy. Your response to your 16-year-old daughter saying she doesn't want to be anywhere near your sister is she's a brat. Her crying is to guilt trip you. You give zero context on why she's avoiding Helen so much. This reminds me so much of the missing reason. Edit 2. As I read comments, I'm getting horrified. Your sister has been both physically forcing someone to eat and verbally not pretty, looks bad, and others abusive since you were kids, but is now okay because she's trying to get better. Not only that, she comes over twice a week. Vultures everywhere says, damn, you really want your daughter to cut contact with you when she's an adult, huh? You're the arsehole, most definitely. Sorry that your daughter hurt your little feelings, but why should she care about your feelings when you clearly don't give a shit about hers? She would be smart to cut you out of her life when she can. You really don't deserve to have a kid. Inside Sympathy says you're the arsehole, and honestly, you and your sister both sound like you have heavily enjoyed being hurtful to your daughter and is disguising it as love. You also seem to enjoy gaslighting and diminishing her when she tries to call you out. I saw in a comment you said that she couldn't avoid Helen forever. It's amazingly easy to do that now, as that she's almost 18. If I were you, I'd be more supportive of her feelings, or you'll find her avoiding you as well. You're her mother. Be better, but be aware there is such a thing as too late when it comes to being a better parent. And one more comment from Queen of Swords who says you're the arsehole. Your daughter is going to great lengths to avoid someone who she states makes her feel like shit, and your response is to dismiss your daughter's feelings and then force her to interact with someone she feels is mentally abusing her. What is wrong with you? Have you ever felt you were being mistreated by someone who is in a position of authority or holds power over you? The fact you are forcing her reinforces the aunt holds power over her. Try to avoid them only to be told you are acting like a spoiled brat and punished. I understand how close sisters are. My sisters are the other half of my heart, but your children come before everyone else. Instead of dismissing your daughter's feelings, take a step back and really evaluate the situation. Why would your daughter go to such extreme lengths to avoid her aunt? You even said that your daughter is being truthful in where she goes. Isn't it a stretch to think your daughter is doing all this just to be dramatic? Then OP gives us an edit/update which says, I've read almost all of your responses and I've looked through as many messages as I can. Some of the things sent to me were devastating to say the least, but not as devastating as me realizing what I did to Amy. I fully accept that I am the arsehole and there are no excuses to my actions. I apologized to Amy and said that whenever she's ready to talk, she can. I also told her that she doesn't have to accept my apology. When Amy is ready, I'll talk to her about Helen. I called Helen this morning and told her not to come over the next few weeks. She asked why, but I didn't give her an answer. I don't want to confront Helen with anything until Amy feels it's okay. After all, Amy is the one who suffered the most. And unfortunately, that was the final update we had on that post. And I would have really have loved to know what happened in the future of that one, because it sounds like Amy is going for an absolute awful time. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. And just a huge thank you from the bottom of my heart for getting involved in today's stories. Your love, support, and time always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much. And hopefully I will see you in the next one. Take care and much love.